Chapter 18, Accent Signage Systems, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thursday, September 27th, 2012. When anyone announces they're from a certain city or area of the country, there are immediate generalizations most folks make. Dallas, Seattle, Los Angeles, Miami. New York is even worse. It all depends on your borough. Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens. Right away, a person's look, personality, even speech pattern is immediately assumed. And then there's Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Henry Oliver Johnson. Born September 26, 1967, the most popular day to give birth in Minnesota. German father, corporate attorney Thrivent Financial, and a Norwegian mother, corporate accountant Thrivent Financial. They met at a Thrivent corporate retreat. Blonde, fair-skinned, ending up about 6 feet tall. Minnesota nice. Strong family ties. His mother, father, and older sister Olivia adored each other. Grew up loving the Minnesota Vikings, Prince, and a prairie home companion. Born and raised in the city of Plymouth, about 15 miles from Minneapolis, near Clifton E. French Regional Park and Medicine Lake, he enjoyed outdoor winter sports, especially hockey. Even though his folks were better than average wage earners, Henry's favorite meal was what Minnesotans call hot dish. Casserole with a layer of tater tots somewhere. Since his mother and dad ate healthy way before that was cool, Henry loved eating at any of his friends' houses. Their folks always had the good stuff. He was able to convince his dad, a proud Vikings season ticket holder, to hot dish the tailgates, although it took quite a few tries before it was exactly right. Starchy, fatty, hot, filling goodness, perfect before any game, especially their Vikings. Henry attended West Lutheran High School, graduating in the top 5% of his class, as did his big sister Olivia 2 years earlier. He attended and received a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Minnesota with a 3.64 GPA, achieved his CPA a couple months later, and went to work in August 1990 as a staff accountant for Target, the nationwide merchandise retailer whose corporate offices were in Target Plaza, Minneapolis. He bought a 1,043 square foot condo, with help from his folks, within walking distance of his work at 1200 Nicollet Mall in the heart of downtown. And there he stayed. Same company, although there were a couple of promotions. He added, then lost a wife. He'd met Emma at Target corporate headquarters, just like his folks, on his very first day. They married 9 months later, but only lasted 3 years, divorcing in July 1994. Irreconcilable differences. Same condo, although he did like changing the look every now and then. Same season tickets for the Vikings. These he'd inherited from his father, then his mother, who both died 2 years apart at age 75 after battling with prostate cancer and heart disease, respectively. Same passion for less than healthy foods. His excuse would always be, look what happened to my folks, which would result in lifelong challenges with his weight, as well as the onset of diabetes and other maladies. If there was a poster boy for the city of Minneapolis, Henry Oliver Johnson would be it, from the blonde hair to the very slight Fargo accent. Don't you know? However, there was one detail that differentiated Henry from the average Minnesotan. He was lazy, almost to the extreme. He hated to do anything other than what he felt like doing at that moment, which was usually nothing. Laziness was the irreconcilable and his irreconcilable differences divorce. He did like to walk. He walked to work, walked in parks, walked around the city. He wasn't doing it for any health reason, although it did help with his weight problem, which would get rather nasty during the weather months when he couldn't walk outside. There was a health center in his building. He just didn't feel like getting up, heading downstairs, and getting on a treadmill. In his mind, he got on a damn treadmill every morning at Target headquarters. Why should he do it after work? Also, he loved to read what he wanted to read, not work-related material. And it wasn't that he was lousy with numbers, far from it. Anything involving any sort of numerical calculations or evaluations were easy for him. For example, high school and college had not been at all challenging. It was the staying qualified to do the evaluations and calculations that he hated. He called it a slog to have to keep up with the reading material necessary to keep his CPA license. However, losing his CPA would mean losing his job. So Henry would do what he had to do, and only what he had to do. He'd take his minimum of 20 CPE credits for the first 2 years, then cram 80 credits in the third year for a total of 120 credits. He maintained records of his completed credits, renew his certificate, report his CPE, and bitch and moan the whole time he was doing it. Henry walked. Henry read. Henry laid on his wonderfully comfortable couch and read and watched TV. Lots of TV. News, sports, dramas, comedies, documentaries, it didn't matter. The number one excuse why Henry isn't joining you? There's something on the TV. Could be in the morning, could be at night. There's something on TV. Number one answer. Now, Henry would not miss a Vikings game. He would certainly not miss a tailgate. However, the only rule that everyone had to abide by concerning the tailgate was that you had to contribute something. Beer, chips, meat, side dish, something. Henry would bring whatever was in his fridge. Cold cuts, mayonnaise, old fruit. One time Henry brought pigs in a blanket, small hot dogs inside normally a croissant baked outer layer. The tailgaters instantly recognized them as the hors d'oeuvres that had been disappearing during last night's party. Henry had stolen them for the tailgate. After that game, the rule was modified. Everyone but Henry had to bring something to the tailgate. Laziness also defined Henry at work. Promotions and salary increases were few and far between. Henry would do the work. He'd just do it in what would be called around the office Henry time. If paperwork was needed for a meeting at 1 p.m., Henry would walk it in at 12:59. If a decision needed to be made to open new stores and the meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m., there would be no perusing of the information until 9 a.m. Technically, that was fine. Realistically, corporate needed information well before decision time to peruse, parse, scrutinize, scan. And for the most important corporate reason, to CYA, if necessary. Henry's work was brilliant. Henry's work was always letter perfect in terms of the facts and figures. Henry's work product is what kept Henry from being fired, and Henry knew it. It didn't hurry him along any. It just made him aware that, as one of his accounting professors had always said, debits must equal credits, and balance sheets must balance. Henry always made sure they did. Month after month, year after year, Henry Oliver Johnson lived his life the way he wanted to without any real regard for the other guy, including family and friends. And then came Wednesday, September 26, 2007, Henry's 40th birthday. He took the day off work, as he always did on his birthday, and that was it. There were no cards. There were no breakfast, lunch, or dinner invitations. There was no cake. There was no party. There were no congratulatory phone calls. There was nothing. Normally, his sister Olivia would have at least sent a card. However, she was on her honeymoon. She and her new husband had married in the husband's hometown of Chicago in front of his big family. Henry had been too busy to attend. Olivia decided she'd be too busy to send a card. You reap what you sow. Henry hadn't cared about anything but Henry, so his family and friends, even without even discussing it, had decided at the exact same time and in the exact same way that they weren't going to care at all about Henry. A 40th birthday normally is not spent walking in the rain, eating at diners, and staring through your condo windows at a city that doesn't give a damn about you. But that's what Henry did. It wasn't until it turned 12 a.m. on Thursday, September 27th, that Henry began to cry. He cried for the better part of 2 hours. The first hour was a slobbering pity party with only one attendee. The second hour was the critical hour. Through his tears, Henry began to do something he'd never done before: self-examine. He realized that his 40th birthday was a direct result of the way he had treated everybody including himself. Henry had taken everyone and everything in his life for granted. From his tailgate buddies to his sister, even to his vast skills as an accountant, Henry always had believed they'd be there when he was ready for them. If he was not, well, they could just wait until he was. Then he found out that none of them were willing to wait, that they had their own family, friends, and lives to attend to. In Henry Oliver Johnson's world, if it wasn't on paper, it wasn't real. At about 3:15 a.m. on Thursday the 27th, Henry sat down at his dining room table with a legal pad, a black pen, a cup of strong coffee, and began to write, every so often staring out at the Minneapolis city lights. Heading, My Next 40 Years. For the next 10 pages he wrote, never looking back, looking forward to the future and to the man he would try to become. He wrote honestly about his weaknesses, his laziness, his cavalier attitude, his general feeling that life owed him, that he owed life and those around him nothing. He also wrote honestly about his strengths, his brilliant mind, his talent with the business accounting, his ability to see numbers and derive answers. It did not take him very long to realize his major challenge. He was great with black and white. He was lousy with gray. Or is it gray, he wrote, Grey, laughing to himself that he couldn't even recognize the correct spelling. People versus numbers, reading versus being read, judging versus being judged. At 7 a.m. he called Target, took a sick day. Yeah, those 40th birthdays will kill you. Oh, you didn't know it was my 40th? Oh, thanks, I appreciate that. And kept writing. 10 pages, 20 pages, then 30 pages. He knew what he had done. No looking back. Now, how not only to fix it, but to keep it fixed. That was the challenge he would not let go of. Something his father had said when he was a kid stuck with him. Son, if you want to have a friend, you have to be one. Henry smiled. I'm sure that applies to siblings as well, he thought. The first item he added to his next 40 years to-do list was letter to Olivia /present. The second item on the list was pigs in a blanket, I make, tailgate, for the game that Sunday against the Packers. His third item, new job. Henry gave himself no leeway. On Friday the 28th, he was in early to Target headquarters for the first time in years. He arrived carrying his 30-day notice, which, given his past record, corporate was understandably ambivalent about. The notice contained something very rarely seen in such a letter, a 2-paragraph apology, followed by a sincere thank you for putting up with what he called my childish, irresponsible antics for the past 18 years. For the first time in his employ with Target for the next 30 days, Henry gave them far more in production and professionalism than they were paying him, which is what he felt he should have been doing all along. He also did not use company time to seek his next employer, sending out resumes either before or after work. One of those resumes went to a company that Target Corporate had employed not only in their offices, but also their stores in the immediate St. Paul, Minneapolis area. Henry had enjoyed working with Accent Signage Systems many times since Accent's expansion in 1984, especially their owner, Reuven, who Henry had found to be intelligent, inventive, and easy to deal with, a rarity in the upper levels of the corporate world. The resume that Henry would send to Accent and others would be specific, containing apologies of past bad behavior, the norm rather the exception in Henry's case, plus the reason why Henry was seeking to leave the secure environment of Target for an opportunity with a smaller company. In Accent's case, it was Henry's admiration for the owner, plus the realization that the skills Henry possessed would be an asset to an expanding organization. Accent thought the same thing. On Friday, October 26, 2007, Henry left Target Corporate, his employers wondering what he might have accomplished had he been this Henry rather than that Henry. On Monday, October 29th, he started with Accent Signage Systems, Inc., working with the owner, the operations manager, John, and the project managers. He was taking a large pay cut, requested by him. He wanted to be paid commensurate to what the owner thought his worth was to the organization after a 90-day trial period. After 90 days, he was immediately bumped back up to what he last made at Target. He didn't consider any tasks too subservient or too menial. including helping to unload the UPS truck when the product arrived and they were on deadline, earning the respect and friendship of the driver. He was normally the first person to the office and the last person to leave. This Henry was conscientious, hardworking, and diligent. This Henry could recognize that Henry and other employees in the blink of an eye. A prime example was the Ponytail. One of the very first people he'd met at Accent, the Ponytail worked in the production area, was chronically late for work, and according to the figures Henry would pour over daily, was costing Accent money. He'd been there since 1999, yet no one had taken a close look at the costs associated with each individual job or contract the way Henry had. And what Henry found through his analysis and research was that every employee of Accent Signage Systems, from the receptionist to the owner, was making money for the corporation, except one, the Ponytail. Also, the Ponytail was a loner. He didn't eat with anyone at lunch, didn't talk with anyone except when spoken to. Henry found out through looking at his file that the Ponytail had been written up in 2006 for abusive behavior towards his fellow workers, which might have led to the silence. Most importantly, the Ponytail did the bare minimum to get by, to get through another week, to keep getting a paycheck. Offensive behavior, tardiness, poor job performance. He was, most definitely, that Henry. For Henry, Monday, October 29, 2007 was the beginning, and it kept on getting better. He found himself happier both on a business and personal level. It was mid-2008 when he and Reuven realized that Accent just didn't have enough work to keep Henry busy. By mutual agreement, they pared Henry's hours to 3 days a week, but on call for emergencies, at the same salary, freeing Henry up to take on lucrative part-time work, including Nora's Music Center, a downsizing small chain of music centers run by friends Nora and Christopher Anderson. This arrangement was in place on Wednesday, September 26, 2012, Henry's 45th birthday. He was at Accent that day and working in his office when he was asked to join Reuven and other managers in the owner's office. The Ponytail had been late for 34 days straight. They'd finally decided to terminate him tomorrow. He had been told earlier in the week to report after work Thursday to the production manager's office for a review. They asked Henry to attend the meeting and asked for his large file on the Ponytail in advance so that it would be available. This Henry was more than happy to supply, and did. He had never been able to conceal his displeasure with the Ponytail, displeasure with his attitude, with his work product, and most especially with the way he treated what he considered the nicest group of people he'd ever worked with or for. And the Ponytail knew it. As the meeting broke up, Reuven suggested that the group join him for lunch in the break room. As they entered, the whole company, except the Ponytail, crowded in, yelled, "Happy birthday, Henry!" followed by one of the most off-key, horrific renditions of Happy Birthday any group had ever sung. Henry tried to keep his composure, but broke down and cried, Reuven giving him a shoulder and a warm hug. When everyone finished singing and applauding, Henry pulled himself together. Wiping tears from his face, "Sorry to get so emotional. I was just thinking about my 40th birthday. I spent it alone, and I should have. I was a big jerk then. I'm not now. And one of the main reasons is our leader, Reuven, who took a chance on a guy who'd burned every bridge he'd ever crossed, who saw something in me that I was trying awfully hard to see in myself. I've told others, but I've never told you. You," he pointed around the room, eye contact with everyone present, "are the most amazing, most talented group I've ever worked with. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful surprise." "Now," he said, a smile lighting up his face, "I hope the cake is chocolate." Laughter, applause as three of the workers stepped aside to show Henry his devil's food chocolate icing birthday cake. Later that afternoon, Henry was walking to his car when the Ponytail was suddenly beside him. "Happy birthday." "Thanks. Sorry I couldn't be there." No problem." Henry got to his car. "I've got a meeting tomorrow with John, the director of operations." "Oh?" "Yeah, you'll be here tomorrow, right?" Henry looked up. The Ponytail was staring at him. "Yeah, got monthly reports to get ready." "Good. Got something to give you for your birthday. I'll bring it tomorrow. Thanks. See you then. The ponytail walked away. Henry felt a blast of ice-cold air was washing over him. He stared at the man walking away and shivered. After thinking it over most of the evening, Henry called Accent Signage Systems Thursday morning and for the first time in over 5 years called in sick. Yeah, those 45th birthdays will kill you. Thanks for baking that delicious cake. Yeah, I had some when I got home. Thanks. I appreciate that. Henry took the day off. He went for brunch to Sombro Cafe on West 43rd Street, went out to the old neighborhood and took a long walk in Clifton E. French Regional Park, stopped at Culver's for a Bacon Deluxe Value Basket and a chocolate shake, then got what his tailgate buddies would have called a stray hair and treated himself at a Minneapolis massage parlor. He had deliberately left his phone on the kitchen counter. It stayed there, its 106 messages and texts unseen, while Henry flopped on the couch, picked up the remote, turned the TV on, and watched the 6 p.m. local news for a very few seconds. Oh my God! Leaping off the couch, he grabbed the phone and through those messages and texts was able to begin to piece together what had happened. The ponytail had again been informed he'd be meeting with John after his shift. Someone saw him go to the car, grab something, then head to the executive offices. John and the other manager told the ponytail he was fired. He said, "Oh, really?" Took out a gun and at about 4:30 p.m. started shooting. The manager was killed. John was wounded. Reuven came out of his office to help John and was shot twice in the head. The administrative assistant was just outside the offices. She saw all this, then ran and hid under her desk and called Henry. Whispering, she left the following message, the first of the 106. "Henry, he's killing everyone. He keeps asking for you. Don't come in. I told him you were out sick. Don't come in." Click. Others calling him, leaving messages, basically saying the same thing. Don't come in. One employee whispering, "Henry, he killed a UPS guy. I heard him say you're Henry's friend, then shot him. Wherever you are, Henry, stay there." Click. On and on it went, message after message, text after text. Henry learned later that the ponytail ended up killing his immediate supervisor and a loading dock worker along with the UPS driver, Reuven. The manager was in the termination meeting and a production manager. From all accounts, asking everyone who hadn't targeted, "Where's Henry? Where's Henry Johnson?" The shooting was over by about 5:35 p.m. Police found the ponytail in the basement, seated in a chair, the last to die. But he had time for one last act. On Saturday night, after spending the day with Accent Signage employees and management, Henry came home, first checking his mail. There was an envelope with an Accent Signage return address, Henry's name and address handwritten. He opened it in the mailbox and almost threw up. Inside was a folded 3x5 card, 2 9x19mm parabellum bullets scotch taped to it. There were only 2 words written at the top, "Happy Birthday." 10 days later, he received an oversized card with a Columbine, Colorado postmark. The first words were, "Dear Henry, don't blame yourself." Before that, he had attended 6 funerals and several memorial services. He would be asked much later by Navy Yard 14 how he felt during those first days. Guilty. Guilty to be alive. Guilty not to have told anyone about what he said to me the day before. Guilty to be listening to the grief and suffering friends and loved ones had for those who were killed, feeling that it should have been me, that the guy he really wanted was me, especially the Thursday after during the funeral for the UPS driver. The last words he heard were, "You're Henry's friend." Then he was shot, killed because he was friendly with me. Henry became Minneapolis 31 and was somewhat active on the site, acquiring Navy Yard 14 as a mentor in early 2015. By that time, he'd undergone what for him was a seismic shift in the way he operated his business. Never again would he become as close to any client, which is what they were now, as he had been to Accent Signage Systems, Inc. He left Accent Signage a month after the shootings, lying in the CPA business had gained so many new clients that he just didn't have the time Accent needed. Everyone knew that was crap, but they all loved Henry and understood that he was in a difficult place, both professionally and emotionally. He was never able to replace the income that Accent had generated. There were times he thought about seeing if he could return Then he would open his desk drawer at work, see a 3x5 card with 2 bullets taped to it, and decide to find another way. Henry never struggled as far as his business was concerned. Although he'd never achieved the heights he attained during his accent years, he'd do well enough by most small business owners' standards. He didn't need money due to his parents leaving him a sizable inheritance, but he liked staying busy, helping friends and friends of friends with their financial needs. Friends like the Andersons and Nora's Music Center. Being part of the excitement when their sons were signed with the WWE, letting them know it was okay for them to head to Vegas, then Denver, that everything would be fine back home. Feeling so happy for them, feeling himself getting too close again, but not caring. There's no way anything could happen to such a great family. Since the shootings, he had had trouble sleeping, so he was channel surfing at home on Sunday, October 1st, 2017, when CNN broke through with a bulletin about a shooting in Las Vegas at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. Henry Oliver Johnson was not a religious man, but at that moment he began praying that his phone would not ring. Because if it rang, it would be bad news. He kept his eyes on the TV and his hands wrapped around the phone. At 1:30 a.m., the phone rang, his eyes filled with tears. "This is Henry. Henry, Christopher. My boys are gone." Tremble in his voice, then renewed strength. "I need your help, Henry. I'm sorry to have to call you." "Christopher." Henry started to sob, caught himself. "I'm here. What do you need me to do?" Henry helped with all the arrangements, from bringing the boys back home to the memorial services for the funeral. Besides a stifled sob during the initial phone call, he never showed any emotion. He handled every task thrown at him to the absolute best of his ability. Then it was done, including the sale of Nora's. And so was Henry. He spent quite a bit of time on the site, quite a bit of time talking with Navy Yard 14, quite a bit of time walking and eating and channel surfing. His business went to hell. He stopped watching the Vikings. He stopped talking to clients, including Christopher and Nora. He just stopped. He was done. So when Navy Yard 14 broached the plan, Henry gave her basically an "if I'm there, I'm there" answer, which in turn was told to Ray as maybe yes, maybe no. Ray boarded Delta Flight 4647 for its one-way flight to Minneapolis, 1:25 p.m., arriving at 2:33 p.m. July 8th. He headed back to the MSP Mall in Terminal 1, back to Chili's. After looking around a bit, he spotted a slightly overweight guy in sweatshirt and jeans. Blonde hair, light skin, eye contact. My guy. "Hi, are you?" He stood up, his hand extended. "I'm Henry Johnson." "Ray Wilson, please sit down. Navy Yard 14. Didn't say Max this time. Small victory. Told me all about you. She wasn't sure if you'd be here. I'm sure she's told you I've been through a lot." "Yeah, she did." He would not mention the Andersons unless Henry said yes. "Yeah, I thought I was going to be okay, then got sucker punched." "You mean with the second shooting?" "Yeah, I just about put the guilt about accent behind me, and then..." He stared vacantly. "Las Vegas affected scores of people, even people not directly affected like you were. I've had folks tell me that they'll never go back there again, that something entered that town that never fully go away." "Okay, sorry, off subject, go ahead." Ray covered the plan for close to an hour. His presentation normally centered with the persons or people in front of him. If he detected interest, he'd go longer. If he didn't detect anything, he'd cut it relatively short. This one was the shortened version. Ray finished. "So?" The question Henry asked was surprising. "Is this where you met with Nora and Christopher?" "Why would you bring them up?" "Because one of the messages they left me, which I haven't answered yet, had to do with meeting a Ray Wilson and a plan they'd agreed to. They weren't specific. It's that message that got me here this afternoon to meet you and find out what this plan they had heard about was all about." Let's see where Henry would go with this. And I want to be a part of it." "You sure?" "No, that's a Maxine, damn it, I mean Navy Yard 14 question. She always wants me to make sure you understand that the probable ending is not good. But the long-term solution to all this violence just might be us. Us. I like that. You're in. I'm in. Ray called Maxine from the airport. Okay, Max, he's in. And Nora and Christopher left a message telling him about a plan that they were in. Please tell everyone to shut their fucking traps, even the people who are in it. We don't need this blasted through the airwaves. Gotcha, Ray. I'll give him a call. How you feeling? You up to heading south again? We keep going until we've got our bus full. Who's next? A Nashville woman you may recognize who found herself in the wrong state and the wrong place. Colorado, Aurora, 51.